Hello, friends. Today, I have a terrifying story to share with you about a bus journey from Jaipur to Hyderabad. This tale is quite scary, so I encourage you to watch the video until the very end. If you have any scary true stories of your own, please, I'd love to hear them. If you are new to my channel, I kindly ask you to subscribe and like the video. Don't forget to leave a comment to let me know what you thought of the story. So, without further ado, let's dive into the story. My name is Aditya, and I'm a software engineer based in Jaipur. I've been working on a project in Hyderabad for a little while. One day, I suddenly needed to return to Jaipur, and I thought it would be fun to travel by bus instead of the train this time. I boarded a night bus from Jaipur to Hyderabad, and the journey began around 11 p.m. Initially, the bus wasn't very crowded, and most passengers were settling down to sleep. I found my seat, put on my headphones, and started listening to music as we drove away from the bright lights of the city and onto the deserted roads. The night deepened, and slowly, the passengers began to drift off. Looking out my window, I noticed we were passing through a dense and desolate forest. Suddenly, a strange chill swept through the bus. Something felt off, as if someone was watching me. After a while, I heard whispering from the seat behind me. Turning around, I found no one there, so I dismissed it as a trick of my imagination. The whispering subsided, but my unease grew. Our bus then stopped at a lonely dhaba, roadside eatery. The driver and conductor told us we could freshen up and grab a bite. I stepped off the bus and made my way to the dhaba. The atmosphere there was unsettling. A few patrons sat scattered, their eyes glinting strangely, making me uncomfortable. I quickly ate my meal and returned to the bus. As we resumed our journey, I heard something rustling under my seat. I bent down to investigate and found an old, tattered bag. Inside was a photo of a family, a mother, a father, and 2 children, with a bloodstained letter behind it saying, "We are coming back." A shiver ran down my spine. I immediately brought the bag to the conductor, but he claimed he knew nothing about it and suggested it might belong to another passenger. I left the bag behind and returned to my seat. As the night wore on, I sensed increasingly bizarre occurrences. It felt like unseen forces were present within the bus. At one point, I peered out the window and saw a man running alongside the bus, his eyes glowing and his face twisted in a disturbing way. Terrified, I quickly closed the window and fell silent. At around 3 a.m., the bus came to a sudden halt. The driver announced that there was an issue with the engine and we would have to linger here for a bit. All passengers disembarked, including me. To my horror, we were near an abandoned village, the houses resembling ruins, and an eerie silence enveloped us. Then I heard that whisper again. I scanned the area but found no one. Suddenly, I noticed a glimmer of light emanating from one of the ruined homes. Curiosity led me toward it, and I encountered an old woman with a strange smile, beckoning me. "Come, I have been waiting for you." The ground felt like it was slipping beneath me. Panicked, I fled back to the bus and urged the driver to leave immediately. He tried to restart the engine, and thankfully, it roared to life. For the remainder of the night, I kept my eyes shut, praying to my deity for our safe passage to Hyderabad. At about 6 a.m., we finally arrived in Hyderabad, and I heaved a sigh of relief. That journey was the most frightening and enigmatic experience of my life. To this day, when I recall that trip, chills run through me. Was it all a figment of my imagination, or was there truly something amiss on that bus? That question continues to haunt me. Even upon reaching Hyderabad, the unsettling memories of that trip lingered. I recounted my tale to friends, but they chuckled and dismissed it as my imagination. Still, the uncertainty gnawed at me. Was it truth or mere illusion? Weeks later, I had to return to Hyderabad for another project. This time I resolved to take the bus again, determined to uncover whether what occurred on my previous journey was real. I knew it could be risky, but my curiosity trumped my fear. I booked a seat on the same company. Arriving at the bus stand by 11 p.m., I felt an odd sensation as I boarded. It was as though someone recognized me. I settled into my seat, observing the limited number of other passengers. The atmosphere within the bus felt heavy and ominous. The bus set off at midnight, and again, we found ourselves traversing that same haunted forest. This time, I tried closing my eyes to sleep, but the whispering resumed. Gathering what courage I could muster, I glanced back. Once more, there was no one there. My heart raced as fear clawed at my insides. The bus halted at the same deserted dhaba. Refusing to get off, I stayed put, gazing out the window. Suddenly, I spotted that old woman lurking in the corner, her gaze fixed on me, wearing that same unsettling smile. I panicked, disembarking to confront the driver, demanding to know about the old woman. He brushed off my concerns, assuring me there was no such figure. I relented and returned to my seat. As the bus resumed its journey, I felt a presence behind me. I glanced back. Again, no one was there. I shivered and closed my window, praying silently. At 2 a.m., the bus stopped again. The driver declared we were facing mechanical issues and would be stuck for a while. All passengers disembarked. Observing my surroundings, I headed toward the ruined house of the village where I had encountered the old woman previously. In that moment, I heard weeping from inside. Peering in, I spotted a little girl, tears streaming down her face. "Where are your parents?" I asked urgently. She sobbed, "I don't know. I'm stuck here." I thought about taking her with me to show the driver, but as I reached out, she vanished. Confused, I rushed back to the bus and recounted my experience to the driver, who told me I must have imagined it. Once again, the familiar whispering haunted me, preventing sleep. I asked the driver how long until we reached Hyderabad. He replied 4 to 5 more hours. Around 4 a.m., we halted at an isolated spot. The driver informed us that the road ahead was blocked and we would need to wait. All passengers exited and stood in the eerie silence. Suddenly, I heard a scream erupt from the back of the bus. Fearing the worst, I ran to check, only to find nothing there. As panic surged through me, I noticed the old bag from before, lying in the corner. I picked it up and saw the same family photo from my earlier encounter. This time, however, there was another letter behind it, reading, "We are back." My body trembled uncontrollably. I left the bag behind and resolved that I would remain in my seat until we reached Hyderabad. I would not step off again. The bus started moving once more, and I remained hyper-aware of my environment. Suddenly, I heard movement under my seat. I leaned down and met the gaze of a small child whose eyes glimmered, pleading, "Save me." Terrified, I recoiled and sprinted to the front of the bus. I informed the driver, who dismissed my claims, saying there were no children on the bus. But I was convinced what I had seen was real. At 5 a.m., the bus skidded to a stop along a deserted road, and the driver announced we would need to wait until morning. Passengers exited, some wandering around while I cautiously approached the same ruined village houses. Stepping inside one, I encountered a horrible odor, bloodstains on the walls, and scattered old photographs on the ground. Among the photos was one depicting the family I'd seen before, mother, father, and 2 children. I felt something was hiding within these images. Upon inspecting the bag, I found the words, "Our revenge is not over." My heart raced, realizing the deep connection between myself and those haunted souls. Wasting no time, I dashed back to the bus and saw that some of my fellow passengers lay unconscious, Frantically, I questioned the driver about what had happened, to which he replied he didn't know. All I could think was that something dreadful was unfolding. Suddenly, the bus began to shake as laughter filled the air. Turning to the back, I was met by the old woman. She declared, "You cannot leave, this place will become your graveyard." A chill ran through me. I rushed to the driver, urging him to start the engine, but it was hopeless. We were trapped as figures emerged from the ruins, their faces distorted, their eyes glowing unnaturally. With each passing moment, my breathing became more erratic, realizing we had no escape. I begged the driver for a plan, but he could only suggest I pray. Then, I saw a shadow moving inside the bus, slowly advancing toward me. Instinctively, I prayed loudly while panic seized me. And just before it reached me, the shadow whispered, "You cannot escape, your grave has already been chosen." And with that, I lost consciousness. When I came to, I noticed all the other passengers were awake and the bus was moving again. My heart sunk when I asked the driver what had happened. He simply shrugged, saying he didn't know. It was morning when we approached Hyderabad. I shared this traumatic tale with friends once I arrived, but they merely laughed, treating it as fantasy. I, however, was acutely aware of the truth. That sinister shadow was still with me, lingering just out of sight. Months later, I had to travel to Hyderabad again. This time, I opted for a train ticket, attempting to distance myself from the eerie memories tied to the bus. Yet during the journey, as we passed through a desolate area, I began hearing whispers again. My heart raced, recalling the harrowing events from before. After that trip, I booked a vacation to the lush Ooty mountains, hoping the serenity would quell my fears. Yet as night fell during my train ride, those familiar whispers resurfaced, echoing in my mind. When the train stopped at a ghostly station, a figure appeared at the door, the old woman again. Her eyes glimmered with a wild light, and I felt the heat of dread coursing through me. I shifted to another coach, but sleep continued to elude me. By morning, I checked into my hotel. The picturesque scenes of Ooty couldn't mask the terror I felt. As night enveloped the town, I could have sworn I felt that old woman's presence, lurking in the corners of my mind. Determined to face my fear, I began investigating local tales about ghosts and spirits. I spoke to an elderly gentleman at a bookstore, who advised me to visit a nearby temple. Upon arriving, I found a priest who listened closely to my story. "Some souls are bound to you," he explained, "they seek salvation. To free yourself, you must return to that bus and pray for their release." I felt a mix of fear and courage. If this was the way to rid myself of the haunting shadows, I would try. Once more, I booked a ticket on the same bus service. At 11 p.m., I was back on board, determined to confront whatever awaited me. As we passed through the same forest where I had encountered those horrors, I began praying for the souls at peace. While the bus stopped once again at the creepy dhaba, the old woman was still there, pointing at me. Ignoring her, I continued my prayers, feeling a pain beneath my seat soon after. The girl appeared again, laying her eyes on me, pleading, "Save me." I assured her I would help. As we moved deeper into the night, I realized my prayers were working. Around 3 a.m., we halted near the village once again. Shadows danced in the dark. Each time spent with those spirits required my pleas for salvation. As I prayed alongside the passengers, another shadow manifested. It was her again, the old woman, declaring, "Your prayers are doing well, but you cannot save yourselves." Yet I pressed on with my prayers, and soon, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The engine purred back to life, and upon reaching Hyderabad, my heart lightened. Though I had been released from the grip of those souls, the old woman soon returned. "You saved them," she proclaimed, "but your fate is sealed." I resolved to confine myself to my hotel until the end came. A few days later, my friends found me dead, that same eerie smile etched on my face, eyes wide open as if staring directly at that old woman. This is the conclusion of my story. However, the shadow remains, alive and hunting. My haunting journey hasn't ended and likely never will. My name is Aditya, and this incident took place in June 2023 during my bus journey from Jaipur to Hyderabad. Thanks for listening, and remember to subscribe for more chills and tales, and let me know what you think of this one. Until next time, take care.